This is episode 10 of Hoops Forum, a joint effort between Radius Athletics and a Quick Timeout podcast. I'm Tony Miller, and I'm joined once again by my co-host, Randy Sherman. Before we get going, I want to thank our sponsors over at 323 Sports. If you are in the market for a team dealer, we would suggest that you take a look at 323 Sports. Whether it's team gear, spirit wear, uniforms, sports equipment, they can do it all for your sports program. To find out more, visit 323sports.com, or you can get in contact with a sales rep today, sales@323sports.com. They'll be sure to do it right for your sports program. For those watching live, we'd love for you to be a part of our conversation. And if you share your thoughts, or if you'd like to share your thoughts or your questions, you can just simply reply to this tweet here on Twitter, and we'll be sure to work those into the conversation. We are headed into the third and fourth rounds of the NCAA tournament, and so we wanted to work those topics into our conversation today. We asked all of you this past week what you would like for us to talk about. And when we gave that as our poll, by the way, you can check out the polls each week on Randy and my Twitter accounts. When we gave that, you gave us kind of a smattering of responses here. Some of you wanted us to talk X's and O's, some with the four factors, and some of us just with, you just wanted some general observations. And so with that in mind, we're going to try to address each of those here. I think probably where we want to start, Randy, is talking about the four factors, just because it's something that we've talked a little bit about on our show. And we've talked about the fact that you've been tracking this with the NCAA tournament. And so I think people always like to hear a little bit about like what that looks like for an individual tournament, and even maybe what are some things that are predictive, and then some things that, as we were talking before, maybe like an anomaly or something, and kind of just looking at those observations. So kind of like with that in mind, you kind of want to give a quick rundown of what you've observed so far from this year.
I've got a question for you first. How's your bracket?
I'm actually second, and I'm only in like two bracket challenges. I haven't even looked at the one. The other one, I'm actually second in my family. And to be honest, that's like the only one that I really care about. If I can have bragging rights in my wife's family's bracket challenge, then I'm good. I'm number 2 right now.
Some big time trash talk privilege there. Mine's shot. Mine's toast. I'm deep in every bracket. So, so four factors. I started kind of just looking for a way back in 2018 to, there's just a lot of coaches that are active on Twitter. A lot of them are on spring break during the tournament and things like that. So I looked for a way to sort of share something different in the tournament that no one else was doing, and giving some just statistical observations on the outcomes based on the Dean Oliver's, four factors. Been keeping a spreadsheet of this. I mean, the main thing I would say is like there's really no surprises, and it's not any different than what is foretold in the book and Basketball on Paper by Dean Oliver. If you haven't checked that out, there's no surprises. There's nothing. I've really not uncovered a secret or a backdoor into winning the tournament. It's just confirming what is kind of known, and this year is really no different. So what you're looking at there on the screen would be a coach that I work with in my ramp program. He's kind of helping me. He's a girls coach, so he's interested in like maybe looking at if there is a difference in the women's tournament and the men's tournament. Maybe there's some sort of inherent difference in that game so what you're looking at there is his summary data of the NCAA women's tournament. So the records when a team wins a factor, pretty straightforward winner there. Effective field goal percentage. If you win that, the team's winning effective field goal percentage are 41-7. So kind of what you see there, just a quick glance of interpretation would be, there's one factor that's clearly out in front of the other three, which are tightly packed as in terms of win and loss. Now, when you drill a little bit deeper, what you see kind of below that line to the middle of that table is when you look at combinations, right? So, and this would be kind of the theory that I've kind of like thrown out of like effective field goal percentage plus one more, right? So if you win effective field goal percentage and plus one more, really any of them, right? Like win effective field goal percentage plus turnover, plus offensive rebound, plus the free throw factor, like you're getting into that certainty of winning realm, right? In fact, if you win effective field goal and turnover percentage, those teams on the women's side are 25-0, and I think, working off memory here, maybe you have the tweet. I think on the men's side it's 19-0 or something like that. If you win both effective field goal percentage and turnover, it's now 19-0 in this tournament.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been doing this since 2018. There's only been one game since I've been tracking it in 2018 where a team won both effective field goal percentage and turnover percentage, and they won those by a very, very slim margin and lost the game. Mm-hmm. And that was Texas Tech versus Villanova back in 2018 in the Elite Eight. Texas Tech won, very, very narrowly, within like decimal points, won effective field goal percentage and turnover percentage, but lost huge, double, triple huge in offensive rebounding and turnover free throw, the free throw factor to Villanova, and Villanova advanced. So
how do you feel like style of play impacts this? Because as I'm looking like bigger picture, it can be difficult. I think a lot of times we pick style of play sometimes, maybe but a lot of times it's just like surface value. What is this team either ranked or they're bigger, faster, stronger, or whatever. And when you do see maybe an upset, and you can speak to some of maybe even like Loyola's games or some of these other ones. I don't know if you looked at like Oral Roberts or whatever. What are they doing outside of the I'm watching and they're outplaying them or whatever? Like what are they doing for factors related that's leading to them pulling these upsets?
Yeah, I was asked that question the other night about the upsets. Like there's, been 5 or 6 kind of notable upsets, like really big seed upsets in the tournament. And I was like, all right, well, let me get some help from some of the guys I work with. And I took a look at the data from each of those upset games. I'm talking about Oral Roberts 2 wins, Ohio over Virginia, which I didn't really think was a big upset as it was made out to be. There was a couple other ones, Texas and Abilene Christian. So what I did was like just go back to my spreadsheet, look at those games individually, and see if there was something that North Texas over Purdue was another one that I went and looked at those games and like, okay, let me look back and just browse through those and see if there's something that for factor wise that we could find. And really, none of those upsets on paper look the same. UNT won both effective field goal percentage and turnover. Purdue, they just beat them. They just straight up beat them, just outplayed them. I think Ohio was better than Virginia. They won 3 out of the 4 factors, so they were just better. But we did notice a couple things that is particularly Oral Roberts you mentioned, but a couple things were sticking out is the teams that advance, the upset winners, the Davids, not the Goliaths, right? They managed to take care of the ball at a very high level. I'm talking single-digit turnover percentage with maybe like one exception. So just think about that. Like you're out-athleted, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more physical than you in terms of they're a high major D1, you're a mid-major or a low major. You got to know you cannot feed the turnover machine. Like you just can't. Like that team's going to take it and dunk it and get on runs and just blow you out. So what Oral Roberts has done in both of those games, I found it funny, is Oral Roberts is in the Sweet 16 and is yet to win effective field goal percentage, the number 1 most predictive factor to winning. So they've won both of their games over Ohio State and Florida without winning effective field goal percentage. They've kept their turnovers very low. Another thing they've done is they've kept their opponent off the free throw line. And I would say, let me temper that language. Ohio State had a very bad night from the free throw line as well. So not only did they kept their opponents off the free throw line, Ohio State, I think, was like 50%. So maybe they got some luck too, but they were there close to earn that luck because they didn't feed the turnover machine against the more physical, faster, more athletic team. So I guess if a coach wanted to take a lesson from that, they could be like, okay, when we're outmatched, what is something we absolutely cannot do to have a chance to win, and that would be turn the ball over.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about the practical application. So I did want to talk about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So the turnovers, shooting the ball well would help, or limiting the other team from shooting the
Sure.
ball well, and that could be from the free throw line. But maybe other practical application as far as, because I'm even looking at this slide where you gave your
Yeah.
overall record. Like, you can't just look at one of these, and I think most coaches understand that.
Yeah.
But the combination of we need to at least shoot decently, but definitely not turn the ball over. We've talked about those previously.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
ahead.
the same thing would, that looks a lot like the women's data on the table you showed, that there's one factor that's out in front and three that are a little more tightly packed. This is from the men's tournament, what you're seeing on the screen now. That, you win effective field goal percentage plus one more, you're putting yourself in the chance in the near certainty realm of winning. Then if you do happen to lose effective field goal percentage, don't lose it by much. I mean, you need to win another factor, not just barely, but like big time win it. Like, if you lose effective field goal percentage and just like get one more offensive rebound in your opponent, you're losing. You're out of there.
Yeah.
You've got to win it, like win it, double, triple, so honestly, it's almost like the exception that proves the rule. Like if that you have to do so tremendously well in another factor to win when you do lose effective field goal percentages, like proves how important that is, right? So that's really the thing. I think sometimes when I tweet out these reports like you're looking at, I do so without any opining. I don't say, like, I just report the data, let it get out there on Twitter. I don't say, like, I don't have another line on this tweet that says, so go out and make all your shots, or anything like, yay, effective field goal percentage. I'm not rooting for it. I don't care, right? I'm just reporting the data. And then coaches sometimes will quote tweet or tweet that or something and say, look, make your shots and take care of the ball and you'll win. And I'm like, that's not quite what winning effective field goal percentage means. It's a two-way street. So the practical application that I would take would be, to win effective field goal percentage, we want to have a good offense and we want to pull that apart from both directions, right? We want to make all our shots like the coach wants to quote tweet, make offense wins, well, I want margin. I want great defense and great offense. And I want to turn my opponent over while not turning the ball over. So there's margin between the two. So there's a defensive implication in winning effective field goal percentage also.
Yeah. We could go on with four factors. We've talked about this before. So, if you go back, you can find these video and audio format. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Let's talk about kind of general observations. Randy, maybe your first main observation from the first weekend.
I was pleased with the amount of teams that really, there were some high scoring games, several games in the 80s, 90s. I'm old enough to remember when that was the norm. I remember back one year when Indiana under Bob Knight, I even took a screenshot one time and said, like, hey, this is with a 45-second shot clock in the first year of the 3-point line or something like that. At Indiana, like their wins in the tournaments were 90, 85, 95, 90, so I am. My general observation is, with some exceptions, there was some rock fights and some stinkers in there, but generally speaking, I've seen, Oregon, USC, Gonzaga, of course, put some good offense out there, some really efficient. Alabama, 1.45 points per possession in one of their games, just really, really pleased with generally, again, with some notable stinkers, but some high scoring, efficient. I shouldn't say high scoring. I should say efficient offenses.
Yeah. So, what do you mainly attribute that to? Because again, we've talked on this show about playing. Is it just simply playing with pace? Is it taking better shots? Is it shooting more threes? Is it a combination? Is it maybe our teams, coaches like this one, like we're shooting more threes, we're not as good at them, and so the scores are lower. Like what do you attribute a lot of that to?
I attribute it to the vast amount of coaches following Radius Athletics and Tony Miller on Twitter. That's what I attribute.
Shameless plug. I like that.
No, seriously, all joking aside, but I think that's there's a lot of factors that I hope are the case. And that's this trickle down from the NBA of spacing, of efficiency, just being more keenly aware. Maybe more teams playing what I call advantage style basketball, where they're just trying to get into an action, get that first secondary defender to help, and then they're spaced around the three, and they're playing just a style that maybe is just a little bit more efficient. I'm hesitant to use the word modern, but then maybe it used to be. We're learning, we're getting smarter, and more people are getting smarter, and the people that aren't are getting bounced from the tournament. Yeah. With a few exceptions.
Yeah. My observation, how many bad press breaks there are. I harp on this. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably see me complain about this at least once every weekend during the NCAA tournament, because you have so many. I think it's exposed just because you have so many more close games. And so obviously at the end of a close game, the other team's going to be pressing, or they're trying to come back. And so they're pressing. Yeah. And how many times I see players load to the ball and then run almost to the baseline, and where they're going to this exact spot that in a middle school, I think you're taught in middle school still to stay away from the baseline and the sideline. Yeah. And so the next question, a lot of times coaches will ask me, okay, well then what do we do with that? I've drawn out for you here the two corners, obviously, where we want to stay away from, and everybody would tell you to stay away from those spots. Yet when the game gets close, that's exactly where a lot of your guards run to. My practical suggestions would be, first of all, back your players that are inbounds, the 2, 4, and the 3, back them up closer to half court to start out with. Most players will start either up on the free throw line or even closer. And then we go and help the inbounder by running to those red spots, and you immediately get trapped there. Yeah. Most of the time we're pressing, or it's like a jump press where you have like X1 is coming, the inbounder defender is coming and trapping somewhere. And again, we get ourselves into trouble when we bring players and their defenders closer to the ball. Yeah. This is a press break from Virginia. You may or may not have a 4 that can handle the ball, but you bring the middle player to the ball, and once 2 and 3 clear out, now you basically have the 1 or the 4. You can throw it back to the 1 that's frame number 2 there, or he can just clear the rest of the floor out and dribble the ball up the floor. Yeah. And so I think maybe the overarching principles here, stay away from the sidelines and your trapping areas, whether that's closest to the ball or even as you bring the ball up on this side or on the next side of half court. And then I think it goes back to our series that we've been talking about with playing with space. Like, give the ball room to breathe. Don't allow a second defender to come, because if you space the floor and a second defender does come, it's a pretty easy pass to somebody who's wide open, and now you have an advantage going forward into the front court there. So that would be my observation and my response to combating that observation.
Yeah, what you're talking about, I kind of had a little term for it, is inviting too many people to the party, right? Yeah, so like you walk all your players up into the, like a 1-4 press break or something like that. We need all these guys so we can get the ball in bounds. Well, you've invited a lot of people to the party also who want to take the ball from you. So I tended to use a single entry on any press, like just one player up, the other 3 across the half court line. And if we need to bring another up to relieve, we get to that 3rd, 4th second of a 5-second count, assuming we can run the baseline, let's say, then we would slide a second player up and then slide over, and where we still have one player. I just don't like inviting all those people to the party who want to take the ball from you. You're playing on their half of the court now.
Yeah, this is the video of it. You can see the 2 and the 3 that I had diagrammed. They run to the ball, and it's almost like a diversion to either get that inbounder to come trap those guys, and then that takes away your inbounder. And then you have your middle guy come, everybody clears, and now you're able to bring the ball up the floor.
1v1,
Yeah, so anyways, that's...
And I like that they catch the ball in the middle of the court rather than one of the outer thirds where the boundary where the boundary also kind of creates a restriction of space, and you can let yourself get sideline trapped or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Kind of more of just our own personal opinion, fun, but your favorite player to watch this tournament
So far,
has been?
so far it's been Buddy Boeheim of Syracuse. I thought he's been electric, like really um, just fun to watch. I would describe him as a 4-level scorer. You hear a 3-level scorer a lot. Like he's I would say he's a 4-level scorer, meaning he's hit deep threes, mid range, and finished at the rim. So I think he single-handedly carried them through the first round, and then the second round as a group they played a little bit better. And we'll see if his hot play continues. What I've liked they've done with him is they get against a switching team, and he's a bigger guard. They get a smaller guard on him, and he just goes to work. He just shoots over him. Like sometimes it is from mid range, from the elbow area. He's been my favorite player to watch in terms of his shooting efficiency and the way he gets a shot off, the way he recognizes who's guarding him, and recognizes when he has a size advantage and the way he uses it. And then just, again, the 4-level thing, like it's such a weapon to have a guy who can not only shoot a 3, but like shoot one from 27, 28 feet, who can really extend your defensive spacing.
I heard an interview with him and his dad, and then I've seen some things online. But coaches to the point of talking to your players about, because they'll watch the tournament, they'll be like, I want to do that, so they'll go out and practice. Like Randy just said there, they'll practice scoring on those 4 different levels, and they think that that's as simple as it is. But he's an incredible worker, and that's the behind the scenes that you don't see, and they don't necessarily talk about during a televised game. So
one of the
go ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt, but one of the coaches in my mentoring program coaches in the Syracuse high school coach in the Syracuse area. And he mentioned he coached against Buddy Boeheim when he was in high school. And he was like, the improvement this guy has made is phenomenal. Like he was like really just kind of like, oh, that's Boeheim kid. He's all right. Like to now where he's really carrying their team in a sense. So
yeah, again, one of those where he's the coach's son. He's on the team because of that. Hard worker behind the scenes that you don't again see necessarily or hear about as frequently. Mine was Evan Mobley. I'm one of those guys that likes unicorns, and I know you don't. Most people don't have somebody like that on their team,
right?
But I would say, like, to the point where telling a player and encouraging a player and showing, even though that you're not that tall and that lanky, and going to the NBA and being one of the first 3 picks, but like a guy who impacts the game on both ends of the floor, works hard, does his role. So from that perspective, I've enjoyed watching him play.
And I've gotten to know him as a player a little bit more in the tournament, because like the Pac-12 tends to play late at night and I'm asleep, and I haven't really, I've seen some clips and highlights, but like watched the full game, and not only him, but impressed with USC in general. So
yeah, that's good. How about favorite X's and O's, things that maybe you've liked, or a play or something that has stuck out to you?
A play?
Could be a play, or could be just a general.
Yeah, I tend to I've got a rule when it comes to like plays or sets, and my rule is it's a 2-frame rule. Like Fast Model, shout out to Fast Model. It's a 2-frame rule. Like if you have to diagram it and it takes 4 or 6 frames, I'm out. So the one that I picked out on Syracuse, plus it kind of fits with, that's their 2-3 zone.
Oh, let me get the other one, next one up here.
Yeah, sorry. Here we go. So that would be the play that Syracuse ran this. I kind of picked it out because it kind of fit with like a lot of the gap attacks that a lot of the coaches I work with are running. So they ran their first possession. They had possession of the ball coming out of halftime. I think in their first round game. This was their, it's their ball by possession arrow or whatever, and they ran this the first play of the second half in one of their games. Simple, looks like horns, which from horns it could be anything, right? Like people run all kinds of stuff out of horns, but it was really nothing more than a clear out, if you will. I took a few liberties with it. If you watch the video of it, I don't know if you have that, but I can. It is on my Twitter feed. I don't know that they really intended to make that look like a fake handoff there to the one cutting over the top, but it sure could. and then he keeps the ball and drives in the double gap. And I added in those penetration reactions, which would be, kind of following with once we penetrate, we move right when the ball is penetrating right. So, but I like that one. It's 2 frames. It's quick. Get in horns. It looks like, they could run anything, pick and roll, stagger away, horns, motion strong out of horns. It could be anything, right? But no, it's really just a gap attack and ISO. So I like that one.
Yeah, that's good. Everybody loves horns. Well, most people love horns plays.
Yeah.
But this is a theme that both of us had caught on, and I know a lot of people are seeing this year, but like the ghost screens.
Mm-hmm.
So when 5 comes up, he's not actually going to set a screen. What you're actually doing is kind of trying to get 3 in space there. And so once 2 clears out, you have the ISO. This is Alabama. So going on that theme of playing with space. So you basically just clear out an entire side and allow your 3 to go and make a play at the basket. So combination of the pace action and then also the ghost screens. Have you seen anything with ghost screens that, like, once the ghost screen happens, something that's coming next that's interesting?
Yeah, really. Sometimes it's just like you've got drawn. Most of the time, it's just a way to pull 2 to the ball and then attack that space when the guy kind of pops off the ghost screen. Yeah. Then ghost screens, like, they're winning the tournament. Like that seems to be like I made a funny tweet the other day, like that game Jay Billis plays during the draft coverage. Every time someone says wingspan, take a drink, right? Like I was like, you're watching tournament all day and you see a ghost screen, take a drink. I hope you don't have to function the next day, right? So
yeah.
So the ghost screen, it's popular because so many teams are switching, and you're causing some confusion at that point of that screen. Do we switch? Do I stay? Or what are they doing here? Are they really trying to pick the guy in terms of traditional pick and roll? So it creates a little bit of point of confusion there at the point of attack that maybe gives the ball handler a chance to attack the space vacated by that ghost screener. So I think that's why it's so popular, is because switching has become very popular on the defensive side.
Yeah, that's good. All right, we're going to kind of transition again. Once again, it's time for our segment Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by Sideline Interactive. You may be wanting to increase your revenue for your program or improve the fan experience, or maybe it's just time to replace really old scoreboards. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer of scoring tables and video display boards for high schools and colleges around the country. To find out more, visit sidelineinteractive.com. We're going to do something that both of us have already admitted that we're terrible at, and that is predicting the next round of the tournament. So I'm going to pull this up here. It may be a little bit difficult for you to read, Randy, so I'm going to try to give them to you here. Predict our Elite 8 and then also our Final 4 here. So first match, Gonzaga, Creighton, maybe a quick word on one of those, and then who you have with this if you want to.
Zags, too much.
All right. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. USC and Oregon.
I think this will be a terrific game.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they've obviously already played, being in the same conference. You're going to make me pick. I would say let's go with USC. They got more pros.
All right. So a conflicting style almost maybe here. We had talked about this earlier, but USC playing the zone.
Showing
Oregon
some zone.
Getting up and down the floor. They're the ones that scored in the high 90s the last time they played. So that may be an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. I'm ready for that one.
This may be arguably the best potential game of the weekend. Michigan and Florida State.
Give me Florida State.
I'm a big Florida State guy. Leonard Hamilton, been on the podcast, super nice guy. Yeah, I'll probably go with Florida State.
Pick against him?
No,
okay.
I'm going to go with Florida State there too. Okay.
All right. That's going to be that pick's not that easy either. I could easily see Michigan going all the way to the finals or something, but I'm picking Florida State there. I think Michigan losing one of their better players, that's going to hurt them eventually. So I think this is where it happens. FSU's depth and defensive pressure might be too much.
UCLA and Alabama.
I'll take Bama.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, let's go back to the South there. So Baylor and Villanova.
Ooh, I got Baylor.
I had Villanova losing in like the first or second round, and I'm not sure why I bet against Jay Wright. I know several of his players are hurt, but I think at this point it catches up with them. So I'm going to go with Baylor as well there. Arkansas and Oral Roberts.
Hogs.
Yeah. same with me. This is not fun. We're both doing the exact same thing.
Well, we'll disagree eventually.
Loyola, Chicago, and Oregon State.
That's a sneakier good game than people think. That's a well-coached Oregon State team. They make it tough to score. They grind you. This one, first one to 55 wins, I think. But I'll take Loyola.
Okay, I'll go with Oregon State here for the exact reasons that you just mentioned there. I mean, I definitely a toss-up, but
like Loyola Chicago on defense. To me, we didn't talk about this, but their defense, that's the most well-coached unit. If you look at it like football, like so-and-so's defense, so-and-so's offense, so-and-so's special teams. Like the Loyola defense is so well coached. Like they get so much carryover. Their teaching is just so evident in the way they play defense. But I'm going to give a slight nod to them. You're going with the Beavers. Okay.
Yep. All right. And then Syracuse and Houston.
Well, you can see by all the things that I picked that I'm kind of a closet Syracuse fan. I talked about the zone and the favorite X's and O's and favorite players, but I'm still going to pick against them. I'll give me the Cougars.
All right. I mean, I have to go with Houston as well, even though I could for sure see Syracuse winning that game. All right, let's go back to the top here and let's get our final four. So you're down to Gonzaga, and you had USC?
I did.
Yes, Gonzaga and USC.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Zags. Yep, I would agree with that. And then Florida State and Alabama.
I got Florida State.
Man, I mean, defensive team. We think of Alabama. We didn't talk about this. We think of Alabama, and I think it's starting to get out there a little bit more.
Yeah,
but Alabama, not. We talk about the offense, but I think the defense is really the thing.
So well, they're good in both.
Yeah,
I think that, and if you look at Ken Palm, Alabama is like 28 or something there in offense, which their offense is getting a lot of
defense. Yes,
their offense gets a lot of talk because of, it's well known that he's kind of embraced the analytics, and that makes some good journalism and good story to tell about. But their offense is like 28, which is good. There's 300 and something, so that's top 10% in offense. But their defense is like number 2 or number 3 in defensive efficiency. So they're really, really a good defensive team. So, but I like Florida State there.
Yeah, I'd have to go with Florida State as well. All right, Baylor and Arkansas.
Baylor.
Yeah, I would go with Baylor as well there. And then you have Loyola and Houston.
I do have Loyola and Houston. You have Oregon State and Houston. Give me Houston.
Yeah, I would go with Houston as well there. All right. So our final 4 picks, Gonzaga. I think we're all the same. Gonzaga, Florida State, Baylor, and Houston.
That's what I have.
Pretty good.
And we can pick the final 4 next week.
Yep. So we'll be back next week, next Friday, same time, same place. We'll check back in about these. We do appreciate all those who joined us this week. And if you missed any part of the show, you can go back and watch the full video on the Radius Athletics YouTube page. If you want to listen to it, we'll put it up next Friday on a Quick Timeout podcast. If you search there, you'll see the full audio of the show. For Randy Sherman, I'm Tony Miller. Appreciate all those of you who tuned in and who are listening on the replay. We'll talk to you again next Friday.